Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs that we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video as we do have a bonus pair for you. Before we progress into the analysis, we'll quickly go through my trades for the week and see what's happening in that department. And then we'll take a look at the DXY, and then we'll go through the pairs we're looking at. So if you do want to skip ahead to a certain pair, feel free to do so using the timestamps below. But I had no new positions this week. I mean, it was Christmas this week, so market wasn't really moving. There are pairs I'm looking at, but nothing really set up. I did have pound CHF from last week, which I was bringing into this week, which I was taking out at break even. I was looking for a big swing, at least back to the low of the range. Didn't quite happen, unfortunately. The overall trade idea is a swing back to the lows, but I will be trading stops and taking partials along the way. So not a situation where I'll just leave the whole position to run, but I would be managing the trade along the way as I was doing. But the first checkpoint of the trade was at least a push back to low of the range before I went to secure profits. I did move my stop loss to break even, so the initial risk was stop loss above the high, but I did move it into break even, so I was trailed out there at break even. But I'm happy with the trade, managed it how I set out to manage. Of course, I was looking for the bigger swing. Every trade is going to be your big winner. But yeah, just didn't play out, but fit the plan very well, fit the criteria very well. Was in a high probability price for a reaction. We did see a reaction, just the swing I was looking for didn't quite develop. There still could be some shorts up there if we come back and we test the high again. I'll keep an eye to see what type of rejection we get. If things look good, I may have another stab at the trade, but I was taking out break even for that position. In terms of the dollar, things still look pretty bullish. So my analysis coming into the week was pretty bullish for dollar, and it's still the same situation. We haven't really progressed much. As you can see, this is all the price action we've had this week, so there is no real update to my analysis and what I'm expecting. It's more of the same. I still do like this range here, brief consolidation, really strong move to the upside. That is remaining to be a nice level. If price was to come back and retest that, we've taken out the major highs. This was our last high, higher low, higher high. Now I'm looking for the next higher low for the next higher high, and that is the area I'm looking for. We've got some nice fib confluence. I'm pretty sure we line up with the 50. Yeah, we've got the 50 running through that zone, may even tag the 0.618. And if I do expand to the daily chart, it does look like price is now breaking through this area of resistance here at 107. And we're potentially going to leave that behind and potentially have a really big breakout. And USD could be looking at a really big move back to 113, 114 in 2025 if we do really break out this level and see a trend form. So very bullish on USD as long as we stay above 107. I do see a lot more upside and potentially a big trend can form. So if we take that information into Euro, which of course is going to be inversely correlated, it's a good chance we do see some downside. Now, I'm not quite sold with the Euro big bearish move as I am with USD to the upside. Of course, if USD is going to make that move, then Euro most likely will make the move in the opposite direction. Back to these lows here at 0.96. However, Euro, in terms of the price action, hasn't really cleared this level with confidence yet. We're still seeing a lot of wicks to the downside. Haven't really got a strong close there. So I'm still waiting for the next couple of weeks to really give me that confirmation that price is really breaking through that level. And that will give me the confidence to really short Euro and hold on to those positions for the long run. But in terms of the intra-week opportunities, I think shorts do look good, kind of taking advantage of these kind of minor lower highs on the 4-hour time frame. Seeing one over there, second over there, really nice drop, and it has left behind some solid support, which we turn resistance, which we haven't seen a retest of yet. So I think if we were to see another push to the upside, tag this area next week, could be some nice sells to go and take out that wick low and really proceed with that bearish movement, which I'm expecting on Euro USD. But in terms of a nice opportunity, I like this area of confluence. Again, really healthy area to short from. Price almost came there this week. And last week, nice push, but didn't quite get that. So if we do push a little bit higher, take some liquidity above the highs, test that area of confluence. If I do whip out the fib from the last high to the low, you can see it does line up very well with the 0.618, which is always a healthy place to take some shorts. And at least the push back to the low would be my expectations. Maybe we do bounce and turn around, but at least the push back to the low I would expect from this position. And of course, you can always manage the trade as it goes in your favor. But that would be the analysis for Euro USD. I do expect more downside, but I need more confirmation in the higher time frames before I can look for those big swing trades. But that'll be the plan next week for Euro USD. Okay, so next up we've got USD JPY. So I'm very bullish on this one. It is a pair on my watch list. I'm looking to get involved with this one if I do see a healthy enough pullback. I do think there's a good chance we push back into 161, 162. Looking at the higher time frames with this one, the trend is still very much to the upside. I was looking for this trend to potentially turn around, but we had a really strong rejection a couple weeks back on this area here, taken as resistance, turned into support, really strong rejection. And since we have taken out the highs on here on the 4-hour chart, I am now definitely bullish on dollar yen. I do think price is likely to continue. So the plan is, can I find some pullbacks, and specifically pullbacks to the area which I want to long from, which is this zone here, coming to the 50, coming to that brief pullback there before that big push to the upside. I would love a retest of this area, strong confluence there, and it's a healthy enough pullback where I can get involved and potentially hold the trade back to 161. That's the thing with shallow pullbacks. You don't necessarily want to hold them for too long because it's a shallow pullback. You don't expect such a huge move, of course, on average, but if you can get some deeper pullbacks, hang on to them, you could catch some really nice continuations, which is my thinking here with dollar yen. If we can see a bigger pullback, I would love to see if I can get into some positions, hold into the trade, and really maximize my returns on this position, and maybe find some additional trades to really maximize that as well. So dollar yen, very bullish, looking for a pullback. This is my area of confluence around 154, 500. Will we see a pullback there? Potentially. I'll have to stay alert for that. If not, then we might kind of just slowly push on, which could be some intraday, intra-week pullbacks. So keep an eye for that. Maybe some breaking retest of the highs as well. That could be something to look at. But for me, as a swing, that is really where my focus lies. So keep an eye on 154, 500. Should we see a pullback there? Expecting new highs next week. Okay, so next up we've got dollar CAD. So dollar CAD, another pair which I'm looking at, another pair which is on my watch list. I like the buys with this one. We've had such a significant break for dollar CAD on the weekly chart, really left behind this weekly zone at 1.39. So once we break that level of resistance where we're going, we would expect us to hit the next big level, which if I zoom out would be this big level here at 1.46. You can see some massive rejections up there, and we're not too far away from that level as well. So that's what I'm expecting dollar CAD to push longer term. So my plan is, if I can find some pullbacks on the lower time frames, I can look to really stretch that trade and hold on to that position. Trail stops, of course, I'll be managing the trade as we go along, but the plan is kind of find some entries which I can hold on to and potentially go and hit those targets. And I do like this area of confluence around 1.417. Lovely ascending trend line connecting these swing lows. We do have a healthy fib confluence of the 0.618, if I believe correctly. Yes, we do. 0.618 in that area, and of course we're retesting the prior high, which of course will be acting as support. So the plan is, can we get a pullback into that area? Now, it will be a pretty big pullback. The chances are we may not. We may just have a slight pullback and continue. But again, that's trading. You're waiting for your setup. If the setup arises, great, we take the trade. If not, we move on to the next one. But that really is my area of confluence, and I'll be looking out to see if we can get there. And if I can get some trades in and we see a continuation, could be a really nice swing trade which you can really look to maximize. So that will be the plan for dollar CAD, looking at entries around the 1.417 area, at least the push back to the high where we came from, but hopefully we can leave some position to run to 1.46. And again, from an intra-week, intraday perspective, you might be looking at the high here on the left. Can you get a nice breaking retest of that level? If you're not looking for the bigger pullback, this might be the opportunity you look for, so keep an eye out for that. But this is really where my focus lies. So that will be the plan next week for dollar CAD. Okay, so next up we've got Euro Pounds. Euro Pound, I'm still looking for that big buy. It hasn't really manifested yet. We are still seeing price trading in a massive area of support in the monthly chart. You can see all these wicks, all these rejections. That's where I'm anticipating a bounce from, and I'll wait to see how this monthly candle does close. If I do see a solid close below this zone, of course, it's no longer holding, and I'll look at the pair differently. But for now, still anticipating a bounce at this area. But what I can say from a low time frame perspective, because the buys I'm looking for are a big swing. It's looking for potentially a reversal of this bearish trend here for Euro Pound. So it's a bit more of an aggressive counter trend trade. If you are looking for something a bit more pro trend, shorts are still good in these conditions. Yes, we are trading that larger area of support in the monthly chart, which means you probably don't want to hold onto the trade for too long. But at the moment, there is still a pretty healthy trend here on the lower time frame, specifically the 4-hour chart. As you can see, all these lower highs, the equal highs there, another lower high, the equal high here as well. So there are still lower highs consistently. So I think the shorts on the low time frames do look good, but I'm getting ready for that bigger turnaround if we do see that rejection I'm looking for. This week we had a nice respect to this high here, and I would suggest if price was to return there again, there could be some more sells there to bring it back down again as we continue with these lower highs and push back into new lows. So I would say if you're looking to trade euro pound and you're looking for kind of trades for a couple days, 3 days, I say shorts are still your best bet because the trend is still bearish, still looking to flow with momentum. Yes, we're coming to some big levels, but you're not necessarily looking to hold into the trade for too long. And if we do turn around and break structure to the upside, then we can start talking about some retests, some break and retests, and find some longs to take it to the upside. But for now, structure is still holding pretty well to the downside, so I think shorts are still the best bet. If you're getting ready for the bigger move, the turnaround, which is what I'm looking for, then we need some evidence that that is happening. Yes, we kind of had a double bottom back over here, which is great, but we need to break structure. We need to see the sign that the trend is shifting, not just tiring, which, yes, it is tiring, but hasn't shifted yet, and we could still keep falling. So let's see if we can break some highs next week. 0.833 is really where my focus is. If you can break through that impulsively, hopefully you can find some nice retest, take some longs. Again, nothing crazy, potentially back to this zone here, and we'll go from there. If we do stay holding this area, I'll be looking at retests and shorts and a push back to that low. But that will be the plan next week for euro pound. Okay, so next up we've got Aussie dollar. So nothing's really changed since we last spoke. All prices done kind of moved sideways, really, but the overall bias is still pretty bearish and pretty bullish on USD. So these USD majors, I'm looking for the opposite move of that, and Aussie dollar, which the currency itself has been very bearish. The overall market is still very much pushing to the downside. So I do think there's a good chance that this wick low here on the left at 0.617 does get taken out. Longer term, I've spoke briefly about push back to the COVID lows down here in 2020, which is around 0.55. I think that could be the bigger move longer term. Of course, still very far away, so we don't need to concern ourselves too much about that. But this major target on the left, I do think we're probably going to take through that. A lot of liquidity underneath that low. I do think we're going to go take that out. So as I said last week, some shorts look good if we can see a bit of a pullback. The market's still very stretched to the downside. Haven't really had a meaningful pullback in a while. With Aussie dollar, this market just keeps falling. So if we could see another correction, looking for another low high, keep up with the trend, keep up with what the market is doing, and find some areas to short from. I like these two areas here. Brief pause in the market. These are areas I'll probably look at entries on the hourly chart, maybe even lower than that. Take some shorts on the retest of these areas and find the continuation. If not, I like this area here as well. Brief support, nice move up, broke through. Haven't really come back for the retest yet as well. So 0.63 100 and 0.634 both look like really nice areas for some shorts, and the market has been very, very consistent with these lower highs as well. So the chances are, if we do come back to test these areas and see some signs of rejection, see some signs of a lower high forming, there's a good chance that the lower high will form and we will see some downside off the back of that. If I zoom out a little bit, you can see how consistent all these lower highs have been. Consecutive lower high after lower high. Ooh, kind of missed one over there, but you guys get the point. The market is very consistent for all these lower highs, so the chances are we'll probably put some more in, at least until we take out that low there. Then we might go for a bigger pullback, but for now, that's still the plan. As we spoke about last week, haven't really seen much movement, so it remains the plan going into next week as well. And yeah, that is the plan next week for Aussie dollar. Okay, so over to New Zealand CAD. So again, nothing really has changed with this one. A lot of consolidation this week as expected, but the bias is still pretty bearish. If I expand to the daily chart, we have broken through some key structure. You can see this was our last swing low, which gave us that new swing high. If I just pinpoint, there we go. So we took out this structural low. So that is an indication that the bullish market structure is no longer holding and that we could be turning in direction. And I would expect us to push back into this major swing low down here. This slow bullish trend here is definitely met its match, and we've broken through that. So I do think we'll continue falling and come back and test these lows here. And if we expand to the higher time frames as well, you can see overall the market structure is still very bearish. Maybe not the most bearish market you'll see in the world, but we are very consistent with these lower highs. And it looks to me that we could be forming another one in this sequence. And if that's the case, you would expect us to eventually come back to these lows, but at least a pushback to these lows looks pretty likely. So I do think more downside is the case. So with those confluences in mind, looking at the 4 hour chart, which is indeed still very bearish as well, still seeing consistent lower lows and lower highs, you can see we're moving in this channel itself. The analysis, which I discussed last week, was definitely a pullback. Look for the next low high and the continuation to try and find that next swing high, which again, we can look to find some entries and hopefully short it back down to the low, or at least back to where we came from. Let's say if we pull back from here, you would look for a push back into that same area. But there's a lot of confluence here. Not only do we have kind of the upper end of this channel, this descending channel, you got this nice zone here where the market consolidated for a few hours, really strong move to the downside. I'm pretty sure lines up with some healthy fib confluences in 0.5, 0.618, as you can see coming to a really nice area there. So that's really where our confluence lies. And I like this opportunity because there is reason for us to expect a lot more downside as well, which means we could be onto a really nice healthy risk reward proposition, trade, which is always good if you want to increase your profits and keep your losses at a minimal. But really sets up well. High time frame backing as well, just waiting for a healthy pullback into a nice area, looking for confirmations and looking for a push to the downside back into 0.798 from around 0.822. So that is the plan next week for New Zealand CAD. Okay, so over to pound NZD. So as we can see, we've got a very consistent bullish trend here. Markets making higher highs and higher lows. Recently, really nice move to the upside of a lot of momentum. So showing to us that the trend is still healthy, still alive. And it's left behind a really nice level for a retest. Some prior resistance haven't really come back on the 4 hour chart for a good retest yet. So it's still a fresh area where if price was to push back down, I know we're kind of looking bullish right now. And there's a pretty good chance the market might just slowly push to the upside, but not really interested in that. We're very close to the high anyway. Risk to reward won't be good. And if you drop to the low time frames, structure is pretty corrective as well. So if you're looking for an opportunity here, you want to wait for a pullback, into this kind of area here, trying to catch another high low and then take a trade to the upside, which could be a nice trade intraday. But I would like to see pound NZD have a bigger pullback. Again, for my area interest, I want those deeper pullbacks so I can hold the trade longer. And this is where I have some nice confidence, just below 2.21, retesting this high. I believe we've got some nice fib confluence coming to the 0.618. Yes, indeed. And it would be nice if I expand to the higher time frames that we do get the bigger pullback, because I'm pretty sure on fresh highs, yeah, we're coming into some highs which we haven't been trading in for a very long time, taking out some major highs there. Not long ago, we took out these highs recently as well. So because the market's had such a big move into areas we haven't traded for a long time, I do expect a pretty big pullback at some point. It might not happen now, it could happen next week or the week after, or maybe in a few weeks, but I do expect a deeper pullback. So I don't really want to be buying right into highs here. Therefore, if we can get some deeper pullbacks, that'd be great. And this is really where my confidence lies for a nice push back to where we came from. And again, it could be a position where you do look to kind of trail stops and see how far we can go, because with some of the other positions we looked at, we've got levels to target, levels where I'm expecting price to go to, dollar yen, dollar CAD, New Zealand CAD, levels where do you think price can push into. With pound NZD, if I expand to like the weekly chart, for example, there is no kind of clear-cut level until all the way up here, and I'm not going to really be looking for such a big move, especially when the market's been so corrective. So don't really have a clear-cut target for this one. Therefore, I think trading stops could be good just to see how far price goes, see if price is going to hit the high and come back down, or it might keep pushing for a while and you could be onto a big winner. But the plan is at least to push back to the high there for pound NZD. Trend is still looking pretty healthy. It would be nice for another move down. There will be some buys with stop losses just below here. Good to go and take them out and then find a nice move. So that really is the plan next week for pound NZD. Okay, so next up we got CAD Yen. So CAD Yen still at least short-term bullish with this one. I'm not quite convinced that CAD Yen is going to have such a big move back to the highs up there at 118, 119. That could be the case. But the market is still pretty corrective on its way up. So I'm not quite convinced. And if we do get back to these areas here, I do think some sales could look good, depending on price action, of course. we might still see a push to the downside from that area. But in the more immediate price action, at least intra-week opportunities next week and maybe the next couple of weeks, I do think pullbacks look good. We've seen some equal bottoms here. So the market tested it once, tested it twice, reverse, broke structure. And since then, we've seen some higher highs and higher lows, as well as a really nice, healthy, push to the upside, really nice impulsive drive. So I do think if the price was to have a bit of a breather into this area, 108,400, or a slightly deeper one into 107,400, I think these are nice places to look for some longs and expect some more upside. I do think there's a good chance we do get back to the highs here at 111.4. So on the other hand, yes, there might be some sells, but I do think there could be some nice buys to at least take it there. And again, depending on your entries, could be looking at some really nice risk rewards for a push back to the high there as well. And they've got some nice confidence at both zones. So I'm pretty bullish on CAD Gen, at least kind of intra week here. I think buys are the best bet. I was originally looking for a lower high to develop and a push down, but after this bullish structure has really cemented itself and really seen some nice momentum as well, I would not be looking to go against that. I think there's a good chance that we do see some more upside, at least get back to that same high at 111.4, and then we can start to look for some shorts again if that's the case. But for now, keep an eye on both of those areas. It does look like a pullback is likely because you can see how corrective we are on the way up. So that tells me there's a good chance for a push down first before we do push up. So keep an eye on both zones, 108.4, 108.5 and 107.5 for some longs next week for CAD Yen. Okay, so over to Pound USD. So Pound USD, I'm still bearish on, pretty bullish on USD. So against all these USD major currency pairs, I do think USD is going to be the stronger one. However, Pound USD is doing a pretty good job at holding on to some key support. As we can see, really big move there. Last time we were trading at this level, we're back there again. Market is having a bit of a reaction. So there's two ways I'm looking at playing this for Pound USD. One's a lot safer, and the other one is not as safe, but it maximizes the risk reward and it could be a bigger trade if it does play out. But the safe opportunity, as I was talking about last week, which is waiting for this support level to break and looking for some opportunities below that to try and find the next lower high. We've been very consistent with the lower highs with pound and euro. As you can see, lovely high there, broke structure, lower high, another lower high, and again looking for another lower high for the break of that support level, and then looking to short the lower high afterwards, potentially on a retest of that same level. Could be a nice trade to look at. Excuse me, a really nice trade to look at. Entries in this area, stops above the high, and we do have a nice daily level around 1.235. which I would keep a close eye on. As you can see, some major resistance, excuse me, major support on that level. That would act as support again, of course. So I like the shorts there, but also a slightly more aggressive trade would be looking to see if we can get a lower high before that. There's a nice resistance here around 1.26. I would say price was to come back to that same area, reject it again on the hourly chart. There could be some nice shorts there to get involved, take some entries there, at least trade it back to that support level. You can look to lock in your profits there. Or if you want to be a bit more aggressive, try and hold through that level and see if you can catch that bigger trade. So that's why it's a bit more aggressive, because you do still have major support in front of you. But if it does play out and you do see the break of support, you could potentially look at maybe doubling your risk reward from this position to that position. So it could be worthwhile. But the safe position, waiting for the support to break. If that support level does break, there's a pretty high chance that we keep moving down. Therefore, the shorts look good. In this situation, who knows? We could be forming a big double bottom here to potentially reverse. So you do run that risk as well. But of course, as long as you're managing risk, every trade has a risk to it. It's just about managing the balance between that. But I like shorts here for pound USD, depending what you're looking at. I see two opportunities here, but the move I'm looking for is more downside, still very bullish on USD. So I do expect pound USD to fall over in the next few days, few weeks. So plan is more downside, looking for those lower highs and the push back down to 1.234 next week for pound USD. Okay, so now on to pound CAD. So pound CAD, I think we're in a great place for a short. Again, if I expand to the weekly chart, the market's had such trouble trying to break through resistance here. So I think the shorts look good, but I would keep it to a minimal because the trend is still very much to the upside. As we can see here, still charging higher. And if the trend wants to continue, it's going to continue and the resistance level is going to break. Although we've had so many rejections here, yeah, you can count how many wicks on the weekly chart we've had into the zone and prices failed to break through. It's still a sturdy level to short from and we can anticipate a reaction. But should we break through, then I'm expecting more upside to the next key level, which is 1.83, 1.8345, which is around this high here as well. That's the next big level on the weekly chart there for pound CAD. So there's room to the upside if the trend wants to continue, but also there is room to the downside if we're gonna have another reaction off that high. So it's important to see what we're doing on the lower charts as the week progresses. At the moment, I'm still looking at this as a potential head and shoulder pattern. We have kind of, looks like we're breaking above it, but if we do see some aggressive momentum early next week, closing back below, I think that's still a nice short. As you can see, you got your left, you got your head, and of course you got your right shoulder there. And this would be your neckline per se. So the plan would be to at least short back to this zone here around 1.795 and potentially hold on a little bit further if you want to try and stretch the trade. But like I said, because it is counter trend, I would be a bit more conservative with targets with this one, understanding that the trend could continue against you at any moment. And if price was to go and break through this high, let's say early next week, I do think this will be now a great place for a buy. You saw the amount of rejections on the weekly chart resistance could be now acting as really strong support. Therefore, if you find some confirmations at that area, stops below, I think we're onto a really nice trade back into that next level around 1.834. So either which way, both nice trades. Of course, if you're looking for pro trend, you want to keep up with the trend, then you're looking for this opportunity, waiting for price to break the high and pull back. If you're looking for some reaction, some counter trend opportunities, then shorts do look good here. I would wait for a bit more rejection Monday just to see evidence that we are truly holding this high. But I think that could be a really nice short. So keep an eye on both opportunities depending on what you're looking at. And really the attention is 1.813 depending what price does with that zone. But I can see price going both ways. It just depends what type of price action we see early next week, and that will dictate my bias. But keep an eye on that level for pound CAD next week. Okay, so next up we've got pound yen. So pound yen still again short-term bullish. We have seen some more upside this week, although very corrective. The market's still very consistent for all these high lows, which I've highlighted. We did talk about the retest of this zone here, which still I think is a good opportunity. I think in terms of the buys, that's still the best opportunity because now we're very close to the high there, unless you scale right down to the lower time frames, 15, 5 minute, and try and look for some really short-term intraday pullbacks to trade it into that high. You're looking for a bigger pullback to catch a meaningful risk to reward, and that still would be on the retest of this area. And I think we would see a strong move down, retest that zone, form a nice double bottom. I think that's still a great place for a buy, especially on the hourly chart. Find some entries in that area, stops below the level, and see if we can take it back into the high, because this is where I expect price to end up for pound yen, back at this major resistance. And I think from that level as well, if we do see some really good confirmations, I will be looking for some shorts, and potentially we could still be looking at a big move down. Again, I'm not quite sold on pound yen pushing it all the way back to the high here just yet. I would not be surprised if we formed a major double top at this area for a really big sell-off, and that's still really what I'm looking at for pound yen. Of course, if I'm proven wrong and we see price really break through that, I would hold my hands up, and at that point we probably are going to push back to the high, and then of course I'll be very bullish. And that's the thing about trading, not being married to a position. We could go either way. We can make money in either way as well. So I don't really care, to be honest. But at the moment in time, we haven't broken through that high yet. So I'm still inclined to be looking for sells. And if I do see good rejection at that level, I'm shorting. If we break through, I'll hold my hands up, wait for the next big pullback, and try and find some longs back to the high, like what dollar yen is doing and what I talked about on my analysis on that pair. But at the moment, I do like the shorts here with pound yen from that same area. We'll be looking for entries on the 4-hour chart, stops above the high, very, very simple stuff. And then trying to see if I can swing this for a really big trade, but we'll see. I'll be trading stop in terms of management. We'll speak more about it hopefully next week or whenever it does sets up. But for now, this is the buys I like, around 195.6 back into the high, then some shorts there next week. And that is the plan for pound yen. Okay, so next up we got gold. So gold, I'm pretty bearish in the short term. I'm still definitely very bullish long term with gold. Still looking for a push back to the all-time highs, but I do think we are likely in a move to the downside first. You can see we formed a really nice double top here. Originally, I was looking for price to actually break through the high and break structure. That would be a key sign that, okay, buyers are coming back in, sellers are failing to hold resistance, and we could be looking for some higher lows to form and a continuation to the upside. However, of course, that did not happen. Price respected the high, had a really aggressive move to the downside, taking out these lows. So I do think there is still more downside left in the tank for gold. Potentially the next time I start looking for some longs will be off this low here. So I'll see how price reacts and hopefully find some nice buys to the upside. But of course, if you break through that as well, that's another sign of potentially more downside as well. But at the moment, you can see you come back into a nice area here. A few attempts to try and break through. Both have failed, and I am looking at a lower high forming for at least to push back down into 25.84, which is this low here. And then, of course, potentially back into that area where I said potentially longs could be. But the play for next week is, for me, these downside opportunities, retesting this brief consolidation supply area, forming that next low high and a push down. Then hopefully we can then talk about some longs later on. But for now, I think the shorts look good, especially entries on the lower time frames. I would not look for entries on the full hour here purely from a risk reward point of view. I think if you really want to maximize that, you probably would drop to hourly or below, and then maximize on those time frames there. But on this level, I'll be more than happy to enter the full hour, because if the trade does play out, I know that the risk reward will still be very, very healthy. Looking for a push to major highs here, 27.20, and potentially at all-time highs at 27.80. So this is what I'm looking at for gold. Shorts still very of course long-term bullish, but definitely just not on the radar right now. Still looking for a bit more downside from this 26.30 area back to 25.80, then potentially 25.50 as well. And that'll be the plan next week for gold. Okay, so next up we've got Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's still doing a pretty good job at holding onto some really key support. And again, this is make or break support for me with Bitcoin, because if you do break through this, I do think there's a big pullback to be had with this one. We've had a lovely move to the upside, but as you can see how corrected the market is, this is not the sign of a healthy trending market anymore. It was when we're seeing impulse momentum, but not anymore. Now it's very corrected, very tired. And if we do break through that support level, I will be looking at a bigger pullback. And the next meaningful, significant area for Bitcoin is the retest of this high here back at 74k. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a big pullback all the way down there. And that could be a really nice buy, and that could take us back to the all-time highs and a lot further as well. So it's not game over in terms of back to zero, just we might be seeing a bigger pullback. And that could be a nice opportunity there for Bitcoin. If we do hold into this area, which so far we're doing, I think this is still a nice place for a long, especially some stops below the wicks here, and could be looking to target back at the high. And then maybe we see a second win from Bitcoin, more momentum comes back in, and we see more candlesticks that look like these ones driving us higher. So yes, Bitcoin still very bullish, still respecting support, could still see a bounce from this 95, 96k area. But if we break through that, I would be pretty worried, because I do think we're going to have a much bigger pullback. And again, from 100k to 75k, could be looking at 25% plus retracement, which again, not the end of the world, and it could just be a really good thing, because it means you can find some new long-term positions to hold and take Bitcoin to the upside. But that's how I look at Bitcoin right now. Very key support. If it does break, looking again around 73k, but still very bullish, expecting more upside longer term. Okay, so last but not least, we've got a bonus pair, which for this week is New Zealand CHF. And I really like this pair, similar to pound CHF. I'm pretty bearish across most CHF pairs looking for a big move down. New Zealand CHF, if I expand to the daily chart, has broken through some really key support around 0.518. It's done it a long time ago, but it's really broken through that support, which tells me there's a good chance we're probably going to push back to the swing low here, which is the all-time low. And of course, if we zoom out, look at the bigger picture, it is a very bearish market which keeps taking out low after low after low. So for me, there's a good chance that we do see more downside and we do take out that low, or at least come back to revisit it. Therefore, my plan on the lower charts is to find that next pullback, the next lower high. In this bearish sequence, I've mapped out some of these prior lower highs, 1, 2, 3. Looking for the next one, got some really nice confluence in this particular area. Retest that low, price support, time resistance, retest the trend line as well. find some entries in this area looking for the dip. And I believe we do have the 0.5 or the 0.620 of the fib in that zone as well. Yeah, more or less both of them really. So if you tag them, that'd be great, and look for some shorts. I also wouldn't mind if you have a deeper pullback into this area here as well, as long as we don't take out this particular high here at 0.517. That keeps me bearish, keeps me looking for lower highs, and looking for a push back down. And we've got the wick low there at 0.49 as a nice healthy target. So very bearish on New Zealand CHF, looking for pullbacks, not too far away actually from entries. Might see some setups next week, of course. Not really seeing much momentum at the moment, so we could just consolidate until after New Year's, but I will be looking for entries and looking to see if I can get involved and take this one lower. Very bearish on New Zealand CHF, pretty much all time frames are pointing down, so it's always a great confidence to have that in your favor. So yeah, New Zealand CHF looking for shorts around 0.509 or potentially a little bit higher at 0.514. As long as we stay below that lower high there, that keeps me bearish, keeps me looking for shorts and looking for more downside next week. And that, guys, does take us to the end of the analysis. If you have found it useful, please be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and of course hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. Comment down below any particular pairs you're looking to trade next week. I'm interested to find out. But guys, have a great weekend. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas if you celebrate it, and of course Happy New Year, which is next week as well. So I hope you guys are having some time to relax as well. Again, the markets are coming back soon, but having some time to relax and then come back ready for the new year for some more trading. But guys, really appreciate you tuning in. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all in the next one.